Thorek Ironbrow is going to be making his appearance in Warhammer 2 with the upcoming DLC, The Silence and the Fury, as FLC content, as well as a complete overwork to the Dawi rune system, as well as a little extra character for his subfaction. But we're going to be going over all of those details here in this video today, starting with Thorek Ironbrow himself. So for Thorek, he is going to be up on his Anvil of Doom and bringing all of his abilities here for this little video, and his unique little ability is that Rune of Doom. It is going to be a bound ability. You cannot take that off of him, as it gives him plus 24 melee attack and can cause fear in an AoE map wide, and it does have a repeat ability as well, so every 2 minutes you are going to be able to cast this once again. It does have a 16-second duration, so it's going to be rather nice for all that Dawi frontline, able to kind of allow them to get a little bit extra damage, and even that fear is going to be a little helpful, breaking the opposing forces. As for the rest of his kit, the other unique item is going to be the Thorek's Rune Armor, and that gives plus 15 armor and plus 10% flame resistance, and he is going to be missing out on the Master Rune of Grunkany and the Gatekeeper's Belt from the regular Rune Lord, but this is a nice little item nonetheless. And the other unique ability that he has is the Master of the Ancient Lore, which does reduce the ability recharge, and especially with all of those runes, going to be rather helpful. And that does recharge when he is engaged in melee, so if he is up on his anvil, he's going to be able to tank that just a little bit better anyways, because you can kind of take a look at his stats. 135 armor. Now that is a little bit with the buffs that he has from the Thorek's Rune Armor, but still very, very tanky character overall. He does have that magic damage, armor piercing, weapon strength, all that good stuff. And when he is on his Anvil of Doom, he does have that physical resist as well as the Locus of Power, but that is the same as the regular Rune Lord. As for the rest of the new additions, we do have Hans of Valhirson, a little ethereal unit, much like the ancestors from earlier DLCs for the Dawi. So he is going to be coming in with the Silverhorn of Vengeance, which gives that 12 charge bonus, and the other items he has is the Rune of Dismay, minus 10% speed, and charge bonus in an AoE centered around himself, and the item is Ironbeard's Ring, plus 20% weakness to fire damage, centered around himself as well. So pair that up with some of the fire dealing units, and that can actually provide a nice little bit of help in that regard. Now for the rune system, which has been completely overworked from previous installments, so we'll take a quick little look at that. So the first thing that you're going to notice is that all of these runes do have two separate cooldowns on them, and they are completely different from what they were before. Now, both the Rune Smith right over here, they have access to the regular rune and is the Rune Lord, so Thorek Ironbrow in this case. However, the Rune Lord or Thorek is going to be able to technically overcast these abilities, making them the master variant of them. So the Master Rune of Negation does have that little extra duration, which the Rune Smith is not able to do. Now, when any of these runes are going to be cast, they are going to be put on a global cooldown for the character. So each of the characters are going to have their own separate base cooldown. So each of these will have a 60-second cooldown for all runes. So you can only use one rune every 60 seconds. And then they, in addition, have their own cooldown. So the Master Rune of Negation, regular cast 90 seconds, and then 2 minutes for the Master variant. But that still allows you to use other runes while that thing is on its full cooldown, but you still have to wait those 60 seconds for the rest of it. And we'll show you a little bit of that in action. We're just going to go over the runes real quick first. So the base Rune of Negation plus 40% damage resistance, and it does get that extended duration when it is going to be cast with that Master variant. So now the Rune of Oath and Steel does give plus 30 armor, and then once you do make that the Master variant, it is going to be a 60 increase to armor, and that of course is in AoE, so a nice little there. But the big change here is going to be the Rune of Wrath and Ruin. Before, it used to be a slowing ability, kind of reduced that. Now, there is a still equivalent of that on the runes, but the Rune of Wrath and Ruin is now going to be an explosion, which does cause fire damage, and we'll take a look at this one specifically against some other units in just a bit. But when you do bring that as the Master Rune, a greater armor piercing, because as the base, it is a little weak to that armor piercing. So when against armored units, you're going to be wanting to use the Master Rune if you do have that available to you. Then we have the Rune of Breaking, which gives gives plus 25% armor-piercing weapon damage, plus 25% base weapon damage, and it does imbue armor sundering as well to that unit, and that is a single target. And now if we do bring that up to the Master Rune of Breaking, it does just last a little bit longer, 55 seconds versus the 33 that the base one is. The Rune of Speed. It gives those Dawi a little bit extra speeds to their little legs, as they give 24 melee attack plus 45% speed. And then once you do make that the master, it is going to last a little bit longer, so that is going to be 30 seconds versus the 18 seconds of the base. And the last one, which is what the Master Rune of Wrath of Ruin used to be. It used to be just that slow. It is now going to be the Rune of Slowness. So the Rune of Slowness, 40% charge bonus, 45 charge speed and speed reduction, and when you do bring that to master, it does slow them considerably. It does last longer, and it does reduce their speed even more so. And that is going to be it for the rune changes, and we'll take a look at all of this in action, as we do have a few test subjects lined up. So we'll get things rolling and move our characters forward here, as the undead are going to be prone to take a little bit of punishment here, as the Thorek Ironbrow is going to be using his Rune of Wrath, and we'll see that cooldown in action. So we are going to use the Master Rune of this, for even though this is just going to be zombies and skeletons, so that armor piercing isn't going to be all too helpful. So we'll have to get these guys up into range, and then we'll also see the change between the regular Runesmith and the Rune Lord, as that global cooldown is going to be completely separate. So in that meantime, we can switch over to the Rune Lord, and then we can pop off onto that Rune of Speed, kind of giving these guys that speed. You'll see this cast off, and then you'll also see the effect duration kind of slowly tick down, but you see that 60-second cooldown, but that is not going to be the case for Thorek, and he's going to be able to drop that Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin, and we'll see this thing in action, as it does get that rune, and it pushes a little bit of Gout of Fire into the air, and you'll see now that it has a 90-second cooldown using that master, but the regular one is now going to be on a 2-minute, as the other one is still slowing down bit by bit. But that is going to be the rune system as it is now, as well, with the addition of Thorek Ironbrow and Hans Valhirson as the two additions to the Dawi. And then there's also going to be some changes to the campaign, as they've kind of added a few things specifically with Thorek. But that is going to be for another time. That is all I'm going to have for you today, as Thorek Ironbrow, he does have his lovely ability. So we'll just pop this one more time. The Rune of Doom goes off, as he does give that a nice little buff. Well, that is going to be all for today. I do hope you enjoyed this short little update on the new rune system, as well as an overview of Thorek Ironbrow himself. But without further ado, that is going to be all I have for you today, so I do hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a good one.